Okay, starting out the day from the hostel. Got some sun in the valley, some rain above. And there's Chief and I getting started on our convoluted day again. I just dropped Chief off and I'm on my way back to the hostel where I'll start my hike north. But I drove by this scrapyard. Looks like a large facility, used cars and scrap metals. But what caught my eye is this scene right here. This Iron Man that somebody made, which I thought was pretty cool. Had to turn around and come back and check this out. Iron Man. I just drove back to the lookout, left the car here. So Chief is hiking the 10.5 miles I did yesterday from south to here, and I'm hiking 19.5 or so with an option for a lesser amount. And then at the end of the day, Chief is going to come pick me up. So that's our somewhat complicated but pretty effective system that we've been doing for the last couple of days. There's a little side trail to the AT from the Lookout Hostel. There's going to be some showers moving through. It's 10:30, so late start, but I'm still going to try to do the 19.5. It is a tough section of trail, and with a lot of rocks, so we'll just see how it goes. The trail's starting out okay so far, and the rain's starting to move in. So Chief and I have been hiking together, and well, not together, but have been staying at the same hostel for several days, and we've worked out this cool system that's allowed us to avoid some bad weather at night. And so this will be the last day we do this. But I tell you, it's been awesome getting to know Chief over the last few days. He's an awesome person, and it kind of points out, as an adult, sometimes it's hard to make new friends, and there's something about this trail setting that is conducive to that. And you meet people along the trail, and you never know if you're going to run into each other again, but you might. You never know how that's gonna turn out. And so yeah, just the opportunity to meet people and potentially make lifelong friends as an older adult is a cool thing. Oh, and also seeing that scrapyard where the Iron Man statue was, that was cool. But it reminded me of an important point about the iron and steel industry. There's two kinds. There's primary steel making where you get it from the ore. You have this coking. You need coke. You need to put it in a blast furnace, and then after that you make steel out of it in something called a basic oxygen furnace. So that's the primary steel. But then you have secondary steel, and it's basically using scrap, and they've got very sophisticated at collecting scrap, recycling it, sorting it, and they put it into these huge containers, and they stick electrodes in there, these massive electrodes, and they turn those on, and it melts it all down, and voila, you add some other stuff, and depending on what you're trying to make, you have steel. And so you hear about the closing of steel mills and coke plants, and the decline of steel manufacturing, and that's primary steel. Secondary steel is thriving. There's a lot that goes on, and they call them mini mills, but there's nothing mini about them. So I have to do some research, but I'd be interested in to see how much steel these days is primary versus secondary. So I'll see if I can get those stats. One of the things about the newer mini mills is they don't always build them in the same areas where they shut down the older primary coking and iron and steel operations. So it's not like those communities where they shut down the facilities are guaranteed a benefit from the new type of steel making. So it's tough on those communities because the mills are dispersed across the country. This section's going to be beautiful when these rhododendrons start blooming. I think in June and July maybe. So yesterday was a half day, sort of 10.5 miles or so, and then of course I had a 0 the day before. But all that was after a long string of more than a week of 20+ mile days. So the rest is done me good, and I feel really good right now. A lot of energy. It'll be gone by the end of the day, but yeah, I'm feeling good right now. All right, I'm going to develop a rockiness scale. Right, so I'm going to call this level 1 rockiness. So level 0 would be just a completely smooth track, no rocks at all. You don't even have to look down. But here, they're not too annoying, but they're there. You got to pay attention to them. You don't want to turn your ankle. So yeah, level 1 rockiness. The rest to be developed. First good view of the day. Some early-ish spring Pennsylvania countryside. Farmlands, beautiful. The rockiness scale will be opposite to the cookie scale. On the cookie scale, higher numbers are better. On the rockiness scale, higher numbers are worse. All right, I'm going to call this level 2 rockiness. So you got to pay attention, and most steps you take, you got to think about where you're going to put your foot. And it, for the first time, it actually slows you down a bit. Level 2 rockiness. This scale I'm virtually developing as I speak, so it's subject to change. And I'm calling this level 3 rockiness. So if you, for example, if you normally can walk 2.5 miles an hour on good trail, this is going to slow you down. So it'd be tough to maintain 2 miles an hour on this, or maybe even a mile and a half. So I'm going to call this level 3, and there's no cursing yet. That might come. So yeah, level 3 rockiness. This area is known as the knife's edge. This is class 4 rockiness. There are consequences, lots of them. Some of these boulders will move on you. For most people, there will be cursing. And yeah, so if it gets worse than this, I'll have to amend the scale. But I think this is going to be near or at the top end of the scale. I'm not going to film this because this is class 4 rockiness. So really in class 3 or 4 rockiness, you really shouldn't film unless you're standing completely still. Not a good idea. Unless your trail name is Haystack. I hiked with him for half a day. I'm pretty sure he swings from vines the whole way, so none of this applies to Haystack. I ran into a southbounder by the name of Tent Pole who was hiking with her dog. She said her dog just bailed on this portion, went off to the side. She had to go chasing him. Can't blame the dog. So I am walking along a member of the Shawgunk Formation, and it's a sandstone and conglomerate which is kind of a sandstone with bigger pieces mixed in. And you know, in terms of geologic nomenclature, you have a, you know, it's kind of like you know, biological stuff, kingdom, phylum, order, species. In geology, it's group, formation, member, and like an individual bed. So what I'm looking at here would be one bed within this member of the Shawgunk formation. So this member, I'm not sure what the name of it is. There's a couple of members that have sandstone and conglomerate. So it's one of the members. So the member would be probably this whole ridge along here, maybe 40 feet in thickness. So yeah, this is one member of the Shawgunk formation. Check out this sweet Class 0 trail here. So the knife edge was challenging, but it's only about maybe 50 yards or 100 yards long. And so, you know, it's kind of cool. You just take it slow and, oh, getting into Class 1. There's a few rocks down there. So you just take it slow and enjoy the challenge. I'm at Bake Oven Knob. I decided to take the shorter option today, so I'm going to end my day around 14 point something miles. So Chief is going to pick me up in Palmerton, and I thought about going 19 plus, but I think there's that big climb hand over hand out of Palmerton, and also this is the last day I'll be able to hang out with Chief. We'll be going separate ways after he drops me off in the morning. So I didn't want to have to rush the evening. So that's the plan. There's a storm across the valley. Clouds are rolling in. The afternoon weighs heavy on my shoulders. My mom was a big John Denver fan. Some of the first songs I remember singing. Sometimes this old farm feels like a long lost friend. Yes, and hey, it's good to be back home again. This is Palmerton, and I think that might be the site of the Superfund site. That whole hill looks like it's been impacted, but I have to look into it. When I first started with EPA, I was a project manager for Superfund sites for 7 years. None around here. They were all in the southeast. If this is the site I'm thinking about, it was a zinc smelter, and I understand there's a lot of acidic emissions, sulfuric acid, and maybe some other stuff that came out of that smelter and made it so the surrounding hillsides couldn't support vegetation. And man, if it was doing that to the vegetation, I wonder what the people breathing that stuff in the valley, I wonder what it did to them. There's the old smelter site. Let's see if I can zoom in on it. It hasn't been operational, as I understand, for some time. The Superfund program began in the early 80s. And the law that was passed was called CERCLA, the Comprehensive Environmental Response and Liability Act. So that law established a program to hold those responsible for industrial sites that were abandoned and contaminated for the cleanup, and also establish a fund based on a tax on the chemical industry for those abandoned sites where there were no responsible parties that could be identified. So that tax was collected, and so for those abandoned sites, the fund money was used, and Congress did not renew the tax. I think starting in 1995, but there was enough in the fund to coast for another while, and I still think they haven't renewed that. So now for these abandoned sites, Congress I think has to appropriate the money for the cleanup. Otherwise, they just sit there. There's lots of opinions about the Superfund program, both positive and negative. My perspective, having been an insider working for EPA to assess and clean up these sites, is that the Superfund program, along with an accompanying program, the Resource Conservation and Recovery Act for active facilities, it really changed the out of sight, out of mind mentality for hazardous waste and contaminated facilities. For example, it was common to, if you had hazardous waste, you give it to a trucking company or a transporter, and they take it to a dump somewhere, and if it gets disposed of inappropriately, under the CERCLA law, the company or the factory that generated that is still liable. So you can't just transfer your hazardous waste to somebody and not care what happens after that. You better make sure they're doing it appropriately, because you're still liable if that contamination gets out. So it's done more to prevent contamination than to change that mentality than it'll probably ever clean up. So yeah, that's my kind of insider perspective there. There's a bit of a rainbow there. This looks like the African savanna. I wonder if this was impacted by industrial activities, and that's why the trees don't grow so well. Yeah, I gotta talk about a rainbow with industrial activity. Okay, the rainbow represents the post cleanup of the area and the happy ending. There, how's that? I'm just gonna stop saying anything. This is really beautiful. I think this is Palmerton. That town from earlier was a different town. this is the old zinc smelter at the base of the mountain. This is what I was looking at from the top of the other side. And so this is where the acid contamination basically got up and landed on the mountain, and pretty much nothing could grow there for a long time. And there's been some remediation, cleanup of the site, and I'd have to research to see where things stand. There's a security place over there. I don't know if this place is active or if there's anything going on, but this is as far as we can get. Last view from the Walmart parking lot, resupplying.